All right, the staggering scale of fraud in Minneapolis as billions more was found this week. When will we see political resignations? Let's check it out. Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. Happy Friday to you. The American people are finally seeing just how much of their hard-earned money is lit on fire by their own government, and the story just keeps getting worse. The state of Minnesota has become ground zero for government incompetence, waste, fraud, and abuse. And if we lived in a sensible society, the people running that state would be removed from power permanently. Over the past few weeks, the Somali fraud story started off at around $1 billion, right? And that was bad enough. That quickly became billions. And then yesterday, that number skyrocketed. The U.S. attorney in Minnesota talking about a completely different scheme here, announcing state programs were targeted with fraud, and the state is absolutely swamped with these crimes, he says. The feds believe a significant amount of the $18 billion paid out by Medicaid to Minnesota programs was fraudulent. Prosecutors believe it could be as much as half of that $18 billion. So that's $9 billion more added to the already billions we've seen. Added up, you're getting close to potentially $20 billion in potential fraud, a huge sum of that, much of that stolen by Somalian refugees, people who begged for their lives to be allowed into your country and then thanked you by stealing a tremendous amount of money. Now, we're talking 15, 20 billion, right? For reference, the entire gross domestic product of the nation of Somalia annually is $12 billion. It is one of the most ridiculous stories I have seen after doing news for 20 years. Here's the U.S. Attorney for Minnesota describing the absolute scale of this operation.
Minnesotans and taxpayers deserve to know the truth of the fraud. The fraud is not small. It isn't isolated. The magnitude cannot be overstated. What we see in Minnesota is not a handful of bad actors committing crimes. It's a staggering industrial-scale fraud.
A staggering industrial-scale fraud. Minnesota and the people who run the state are now the picture of total failure. And there they are right there. And guess which political party they all pledge allegiance to? These are the most incompetent, corrupt, pathetic people in American politics. That's an abysmal picture. That picture is terrifying. They have allowed billions of dollars to be stolen from the American people, not just Minnesotans, but from the American people. Billions and billions of dollars stolen because of the people right there on your screen. These are the stories that make Americans wonder, why in the hell do I pay taxes? Why in the world do I let the IRS take money out of my paycheck? Why do I send any money to the IRS every winter, every spring? If the people running this country care this little about the money that we send them, why do we send them any money at all? Think about how much better your quality of life would be if you didn't have to pay all that money. And if they're just going to light it on fire, why are you spending it in the first place? Why are you sending it to them? The tax cheats might be the smartest of all of us. Why would you send any money to a government that couldn't care less how it's used? They don't care how it's used. They don't care who steals it. They don't know how much is wasted. They have no interest in that whatsoever because they know there's just more coming behind it. Minnesota's governor, an idiot by the name of Tim Walz, is now panicking as the Trump White House is indicating that they're ready to cut Minnesota off entirely from the federal dole.
Look, right now, it's very clear. The entire federal government is weaponized against Minnesota. And the issues of things that should be states' rights, states to control, they're threatening us with this. And this is what happens when you have a floundering presidency, and it is about those ballrooms and everything else. It's on every front. It's CDLs, it's transportation money, it's money across the board that they have weaponized.
That they have weaponized. The federal government is weaponized against Minnesota, says the man that has just let your money be lit on fire, let it be stolen, couldn't care less because all he cares about is his own political career and his own wallet. And of course, he brings up the ballroom, right? Which is fully funded by private corporate donations. He's trying to allege that Trump is wasting money too, and we're all just wasting money. He has no defense. He is a flailing moron. He has been since he ran with Kamala, and we all got to meet him. He's an embarrassment to the country, and he runs an entire state in this country. How sad is that? By the way, just a Truth Social from the president that popped up, if I can ad-lib here for a second. $9 billion was stolen from the state of Minnesota by illegal Somalian criminals. They must pay a big price now, says the President of the United States just about 20 minutes ago on Truth Social. Minnesota is the state that prosecutors say criminals are moving to because it is such an easy target for fraud. Criminals are moving to Minnesota because it's so easy to steal money from the Minnesota and the federal government when you're there. Another round of fraudsters indicted this week, charged with scamming a housing assistance program. Take a listen to the details.
Prosecutors on Thursday indicting 6 people, including one already charged in another case. The 5 new defendants are all accused of defrauding a state program meant to provide housing assistance to the disabled and those dealing with addiction. 2 people charged aren't even from here. According to officials, Anthony Jefferson and Lester Brown came from Philadelphia to Minnesota looking for an opportunity to make money. They set up 2 fake companies and collected $3.5 million.
A good opportunity to make money. They moved from Pennsylvania to Minnesota. That's not close because it's such an easy place to rip off the government. And the money being stolen, again, is not just from Minnesota. This is not just Minnesota state taxpayers. It's all of our money. Most of the money is federal money that's going through Minnesota and then to people because Minnesota is just not checking anything. They don't care. They don't care. They get them. We send in, trillions a year in tax revenue, and whatever they can't account for, whatever, if it's not enough, they just print more. Why would anybody care about how much money? If you can print it, if we can just be $37 trillion in debt and just print more money, why would anybody scrutinize where our money goes? Why would anybody care? We're just a gigantic pile of money that's printed off from a budget that's never, ever balanced. It's open season. The United States is just a big pile of cash. Scammers look at us like a big bank with no security guard. Like the trust fund baby with no backbone that everybody siphons money off of. More from the U.S. Attorney on how Minnesota is the ultimate target.
This case is slightly different. This is an instance of what's essentially fraud tourism. Mr. Jefferson and Brown were residents of Philadelphia who had no connection to Minnesota, except for they heard that Minnesota and its Housing Stabilization Services program was easy money. These defendants came here not to enjoy our lakes, our beautiful summers, or our warm people. They came here because they knew and understood that Minnesota was a place where taxpayer money could be taken with little risk and few consequences.
Little risk and few consequences. We're seeing this happen all over the country, too. It's obviously the worst in Minnesota, but almost exclusively in blue states are these kinds of scams so easy to get away with. Haitian migrants with an obvious food stamp scheme in Boston. Take a listen.
Neil Bonner and Saul Elisme for large-scale SNAP benefit trafficking, a scheme that turned a program designed to feed families into a multi-million-dollar criminal enterprise.
A multi-million-dollar criminal enterprise. It's just that easy to steal from the federal government. A $7 million scam in Colorado. HUD now investigating the housing benefits program after an audit found that housing benefits were paid to 221 people who are dead. Back in Minneapolis, a group that's calling themselves the Somali American Leadership Task Force says exposing this vast Somali fraud scheme in the billions, perhaps larger than their home country's GDP, is racist.
Trump targeting a whole community is racist and un-American. Our goal is not confrontation, but protection. Not division, but dignity. Not fear, but a Minnesota where civil liberties are applied equally to everyone.
Okay. Liz Collin is a journalist in Minneapolis. We've been talking to her a lot about this story, and she's back with us tonight. Good to see you. And I reiterate that these are the stories that really make people wonder why on earth they pay taxes to the government if they're just going to waste it like this. But how much has this story exploded since the last time we've talked?
Oh, gosh, I can't even tell you about the whiplash we've had as reporters here these last couple of weeks. It's almost like a new federal investigation launches daily, which I will say is welcomed, it seems, by the Minnesota taxpayer, because we are learning so much each and every day. But just hearing about this explosive growth happening in these Medicaid programs, and you're right, this $9-10 billion number we're hearing. But I'll be honest, you know, I've talked to you before about this, Rob, but we've been on the ground taking a look at these businesses. Many of them still seem to have their doors open. So I don't think that they really have a good grasp just yet as far as that total, as it seems to go up nearly daily. But just wanted to highlight an example, a housing program. It went from paying out $4 million a year to $170 million just a few years later, and that seemed to mirror many other programs that we heard about yesterday in that press conference.
Imagine if you had a business and you had a line item that went from $4 billion to $170 billion, and nobody at your company even thought twice about it. You'd fire every single person. I mean, by the way, it would have to be a massive corporation for these kinds of numbers, which is what our government is. But you'd fire everybody that was even close to that department, because it would just be such staggering incompetence. 4 to 170 billion, nobody cares.
Yeah, and that's what we also heard, that, you know, it's not uncommon. Sometimes there's upcharges in these Medicaid frauds, and they talked about that in other states. But they say they've seen nothing like this. But in Minnesota, these are just shell companies, fake companies that are being created just for fraud. And that's what, again, we've seen again and again in our stories we've detailed over at Alpha News. But Thompson saying yesterday, basically, we look under a rock and there's a new $50 million fraud. And they're actually seeing more red flags than they are legitimate providers in Minnesota, Rob.
This needs to cost people their political careers. You know the people of that state in Minneapolis better than anybody. Ellison, Walz, Fry, these people should never be able to get back in power again. Do you think that's going to happen? Is this locally a big enough story? Are people actually paying attention? Because so many times people don't pay attention. But this is so bad. Is it waking anybody up?
You know, I'll be honest that I put out a book. It's called They're Lying, The Media, the Left, and the Death of George Floyd. And I did that more than 3 years ago now. And you know who they, a big part of that, Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison, telling the truth about their backgrounds, about what they've been doing since they've been in office, these lies, these frauds at so many levels, you know, whether it's this Medicaid fraud or the lies that they've told about so many things. Yep. So I think that is the hope here, that finally something there will change, and there will be consequences in uncovering all of this.
Yeah, I mean, we are led by such staggering incompetence. It's tremendous to see it in a moment like this. These are the people that run our government. It's terrifying. Liz Collin, great work as always. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Rob.
Royce White, running for Minnesota Senate, and back with us tonight. Royce, this is your state. Do you think heads will roll? Will these politicians lose their careers? Are enough people hearing this story in your state?
You would think so. You would certainly think so. I mean, we've been a Democrat stronghold for a long time. You would think that billions of dollars being frauded from the American people, but more specifically the Minnesota taxpayer, would be enough for dogmatic political party loyalty to shift. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean the fact that you have, I mean we've brought in maybe 80 or 100,000 Somali refugees out of a country that is millions and millions and millions, and of that 80 or 100,000, a much smaller subsection of that has been able to steal an amount of money that might be bigger than the annual GDP of the country that they came from. That is something that is just, it almost can't be true. It's so ridiculous that you can't imagine it's true.
I've been saying for about 5 years now that Minnesota and Minneapolis is the belly of the beast. I say it every morning on my show, Real America's Voice. I'm in the belly of the beast. The question is, how did it happen? Yeah. And while the Somali fraud is all but obvious and blatant, and we shouldn't be shy or scared to say it, it's not racism. The same way if it was a black community that was responsible, we'd say, hey, they're black people who are committing fraud, or any other group for that matter. But you know, the answer to Somalia's problems aren't in Minneapolis, they're in Somalia.
Yeah, well said.
What I mean by that is Somalia is a war-torn nation. It's a failed state because their people, their leaders sold them out. But it's beautiful arable land. They got $4-5 trillion in oil reserves they're sitting on top of. They got great rare earth minerals and gold and beautiful oceans that have tons of fish. The Somalian people have been sold out by their own leaders, and I think as an America Firster and MAGA candidate, we would invite the rise of a Somalia First movement that would see some of these Somalian refugees return to their country and get their country in order, not steal from the American people.
Yeah, that it's such a great point, and that's what I think. What's Trump's point as well is, go home and fix your own country. I mean, it's not patriotic at all to run over here. And then become a drag on our society as well. Stay there and be the impetus for change in the country that you're so proud of. Ilhan Omar lights up when she talks about Somalia. She doesn't like America. She likes Somalia. You can see that in her. Go fix it. Royce, good to see you. Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, it was deadline day today for the Epstein files, and they have been dumped. Thousands of pages of documents and pictures made public this afternoon. Bill Clinton, Slick Willie, appearing frequently with Jeffrey Epstein. There's one picture, there's swimming around, there's Ghislaine, and a redacted face, probably a victim, you would assume. The redaction here, here's the hot tub picture with Bill Clinton. Another redacted face there on the right. Michael Jackson seen posing with Epstein in these new photos. Another one of MJ when he got really light in skin tone. Mick Jagger also in a few pictures as well. There's dinner with Clinton and Epstein right there, head of the Rolling Stones. DOJ acknowledging today that the Epstein file release that they've brought on today is incomplete. They expect additional disclosures by the end of the year, but this has been out for a number of hours now. We think this is the majority of what we're going to get from what's been labeled basically the full dump. Make of that what you will. All right, Jake Tapper and a CNN doctor obsessing over Trump's cognitive. But wait till you hear how this same medical professional described Joe Biden during his presidency.
We've never seen the president, like that. He seemed almost frantic, and it was disturbing.
Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country.
Before Charlie Kirk died, he issued a stark warning of terrifying dangers ahead in a new book, Pagan Threat, authored by Pastor Lucas Miles. Charlie said Pagan Threat could save America and that you must read it. Get Pagan Threat free with Newsmax's special offer. Plus, get Dick Morris's new book, The Real Charlie Kirk. 2 great books with our free offer today.
Greg trusts Prevagen for his brain, and this is his story.
Hi, I'm Greg. I live in Bloomington, Illinois. I'm not an actor. I'm just a regular person. 8 years ago, I just didn't feel like I was on my game. I started taking Prevagen, and I want people to know that Prevagen has worked for me. Give it a try. I want it to help you just like it has helped me. I've been taking Prevagen for 8 years now, and it's still helping me tremendously.
Prevagen has been the #1 selling brain supplement nationwide for over 10 years.
It's the Blue Compass RV annual Blue Tag clearance. Save over 40% on select new RVs during our largest sale of the year. Plus, every RV comes with a 1-year VIP membership to RV Complete, a $5,000 value. Visit us online or in store today.
These days, supporting the right causes matters more than ever. That's why I chose Patriot Mobile. They're not just a great mobile service provider, they're all about giving back. Every bill helps support causes we believe in: family, faith, and freedom. You get great nationwide coverage on all 3 main networks. Even better, you're doing it with an American company that stands up for us. It's time to make the switch, y'all. Let's support a wireless company that's got our back. Go to patriotmobile.com and make the switch today.
As a cardiologist, when I put my patients on a statin to reduce cholesterol, I also tell them it can deplete their CoQ10 levels. I recommend taking Cunol CoQ10. Cunol has 3 times better absorption than regular CoQ10. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Welcome back. Jake Tapper over at CNN airing a segment with Dick Cheney's former cardiologist, claiming we should all be very worried about President Trump after that White House address this week.
It was delivered in with a manic cadence, almost a frantic cadence. As the address went on, the cadence of his remarks became quicker, and we've never seen the president like that. He seemed almost frantic, and it was disturbing to watch.
This is not the first time this has happened. The president appeared to be struggling to keep his eyes open during a public White House event in the Oval Office.
He's also fallen asleep at cabinet meetings with people talking directly to him. And that's what's called increased daytime somnolence.
You know, the guy is awake like 20 hours a day, by the way, our president of the United States, and does more in a month than both of those guys have done in their entire lives. Let's leave it at that. If he gets a little sleepy after a cheeseburger when he's doing the cabinet meeting, who wouldn't be a little tired at some point during the day when you sleep as much as Donald Trump? For the last 2 years of Biden's presidency, the president was barely conscious, doing almost no public appearances, falling up the steps, never really meeting with his own cabinet. Here was that same doctor talking about Joe Biden.
Look, people have sort of this mistaken opinion that the president is like an astronaut and we're spinning them around in centrifuges to prove their fitness. But what we really ask for is mental sharpness and the ability to carry out the duties of his office. And I think the president has shown that.
Katie Zacharia joins us now to talk about this. Wow, that's a crappy doctor, Katie. I would not trust him with my health care, I don't think.
I think this is, Rob, why we have it now as the definition of fake news. This Jake Tapper holding this guy up, allowing him to have a platform and say Joe Biden had cognitive capabilities and Donald Trump is falling asleep at the Resolute desk. He's not falling asleep, and he's not falling asleep in cabinet meetings. And honestly, his speech that he gave was incredible. And I think when I read that, when I watch Jake Tapper's body language, they're just disappointed he didn't announce a launch with war with Venezuela. I honestly think they're trying to find news to make him look bad, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the speech. I've known him for a while. I said he's pissed off. I said he's pissed off tonight and he's pumped up, and that was the speech. I looked at him. I was like, he's a little amped up. I could tell he was in a mood. He's that subject on the economy really gets him going with what Democrats are trying to do, the spin they're trying to pull here. I got 1 minute left for you here. This judge, Hannah Dugan, Wisconsin, found guilty of obstruction. She had rendered judgment on an illegal alien who had beaten up a woman, by the way, and then helped that illegal alien evade federal agents so he wouldn't be deported by distracting agents. She faces up to 5 years in prison. These are judges in this country. This is the activity of a judge.
Rob, this goes to the greater point where, and I'm going to go back to California, where you have a Mayor Bass, Gavin Newsom, who are empowering law enforcement agents, empowering judges, empowering anyone to disobey ICE and to give them permission that the law doesn't apply to them. And it turns out, Rob, in this situation with this judge and even with what could be a moderate to liberal jury, they found that she obstructed justice. And I'm so happy to see how swift this happened, Rob. And it can't continue. We can't have the left enabling these people to break the law. It's just, it needs to stop.
That's not a judge. That's a political activist. She should never be a judge again. And hopefully that will be the end result of this. Katie Zacharia, good to see you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
All right. Some vengeance for our fallen soldiers on this Friday. The U.S. striking Syria earlier this afternoon, hitting dozens of ISIS sites across the country, over 50 in total, including weapons storage areas, other buildings that support the Islamic State, fulfilling the president's promise to avenge the 2 service members and interpreter who were killed last Saturday in a terror attack. Secretary Pete Hegseth, the War Secretary, writing on X, as we said directly following the savage attack, if you target Americans anywhere in the world, you will spend the rest of your brief, anxious life knowing the United States will hunt you, find you, and ruthlessly kill you. Very well said. All right, it is Friday. 3-Eye Atlas passed at its closest distance to Earth today. Fascinated by this thing, Professor Avi Loeb is up next.
It's our America. We built it. Courage, freedom. Millions go to Newsmax when they need to know. Start today on the free Newsmax app. Newsmax is real news for real people.
I lost 110 pounds. You couldn't tell at all because of my excess skin. Sono Bello changed that in one visit.
Introducing the new Lift EX, the just one visit total body transformation everyone is talking about.
I am super happy with my results.
I decided to give Sono Bello a try. Look at me, I have a silhouette. You can see my waist.
Lift EX is Sono Bello's breakthrough 360-degree body lift alternative. Our body contouring experts sculpt, tighten, and lift your stomach, waist, thighs, and backside, all in just one visit with less downtime.
Sono Bello targeted the areas diet, exercise, go
would not do. I found me again.
Sono Bello has over 50,000 five-star reviews, and Lift DX is exclusively available at Sono Bello, America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist. Book your free, personalized consultation today. Easy monthly plans make your best body more affordable than ever.
This year is my year thanks to Sono Bello.
Call Sono Bello for your free consultation today.
They killed her brother. They shot her dog. And they took her hostage for 400 days and terrifying nights. They raped her. They put guns to her head. They starved her. These are the stories of Israeli women attacked by Hamas. If you are supporting Hamas and radicalized Palestinians, this is what you are supporting. Choose freedom, not terror.
Give the Omaha Steaks Deluxe gift package. That includes bacon-wrapped filet mignon, burgers, franks, sides, and desserts for just $99.99. And it ships free. This offer won't last. Visit omahasteaks.com/gift today.
I'm Elmer Heinrich, the 91-year-old formulator of Immuno 150, an incredible nutritional supplement. There's nothing like it. Now, Immuno 150 is different because it contains 70 plant-derived minerals and 80 other nutrients. Dr. Linus Pauling, known for vitamin C, was instrumental in convincing me to get into the mineral business in 1983. He said the world is sick due to a lack of minerals in topsoil. He said the body needs 60 minerals, but the average food and supplement has no more than 12. That's the reason for Immuno 150. Since its inception, it's had a powerful impact on the lives of thousands of people who could not get any help from various supplements they took or their doctor. Now, I suggest you try Immuno 150 to see what 70 minerals, CoQ10, and 80 nutrients can do for you. Look at the videos on our website. Millions have. Now, consider placing an order for Immuno 150 online or call our toll-free number. I know you'll be glad you did.
David trusts Prevagen for his brain, and this is his story.
Nice to meet you. My name is David. I've been a pharmacist for 44 years. When I have customers come in, I recommend Prevagen. Number one, because it's safe and effective, does not require a prescription. And I've been taking it quite a while myself, and I love it when the customers come back in and tell me, David, that really works so good for me. Makes my day.
Prevagen has been the #1 selling brain supplement nationwide for over 10 years.
All right, you know, on Friday nights, sometimes we like to talk about some of that stuff out there and what's all out there in that big universe. And what a perfect timing here for 3i Atlas, the mysterious interstellar object zipping through our solar system. The theories about it all over the map. NASA thinks it's a comet. Others think it could be some kind of an alien vessel. It's changed course a couple of times, which is bizarre. Earlier today, on this Friday, 3i Atlas came within 168 million miles of our planet. That's as close as it is going to get, close enough to see with small telescopes. And Dr. Avi Loeb, the professor at Harvard University, has been investigating and questioning 3i Atlas since it entered our solar system, joins us now. And, sir, it's good to have you on. I want to start with, it's as close as it's going to get. Have we learned anything?
Well, thanks for having me. It doesn't look like the Earth was the target of this particular interstellar object because it passed closest to the sun when we were on the other side of the sun. You know, that may not be surprising, even if it's a technological visitor, because back when it started its journey, probably billions of years ago, Earth was not that interesting. And Jupiter was always the biggest planet in our solar system. We haven't learned much news today. We've learned over the past week several interesting tidbits about 3i Atlas. For example, it has a tightly collimated jet from the object towards the sun. That was true back in July, and it's true again now. And this jet goes over a distance of 1 million kilometers, a few times bigger than the distance from Earth to the moon. It's a huge jet. And also the rotation of the object.
What do you mean by a jet? Sorry to interrupt you. A jet? What does that mean?
Oh, it means a structure, the particles that are emitted in a very collimated fashion. So the length is 10 times longer than the width of this structure. And the question is, how do you get, for example, a pocket of ice getting warmed up by sunlight to emit a well-collimated jet? That's difficult to imagine. But in addition, the rotation of the object is around an axis which is directed towards the sun within 8 degrees or so. And that's surprising. It means the object has a permanent day side, a permanent night side. And somehow there are these geometric coincidences of the jet pointing at the sun, the rotation axis pointing at the sun. Yeah. And as the object passed by the sun, there was another jet from the opposite pole that is now directed at the sun.
We talked to the new NASA administrator last night on the show. We asked him about it. He says that he believes, like the rest of the administration, that it's a comet. Do you think they're wrong?
No, I mean, it's most likely a natural object, but it has some anomalies, things we don't understand, like what I mentioned, or the alignment of the trajectory of this object with the plane of the planets around the sun. So we better keep an eye on it and try to figure out why these anomalies are out there. You know, it sheds mostly nickel with very little iron. The only place where we find that is in the industrial production of nickel alloys. So I would say we should remain curious. I would, if I had to bet, I would say it's most likely natural. But when you have a visitor to your backyard, you better figure out the nature of that visitor.
What's so cool is that this is our backyard. It's 168 million miles away. You want to talk about how big the universe is. That's considered very close to Earth, which I think most people that's just mind-boggling, and that's why I love what you do. Dr. Loeb, it's good to have you on as always. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
We will stay curious here at Newsmax. We always are. All right, in a country with way too many stoned kids, we're going to analyze Trump's big move on marijuana up next.
How could a person not feel overwhelmed coming here?
Christmas time is special, more so in Israel, the birthplace of Jesus. Ambassador Mike Huckabee shares the experience this holiday season. Watch Mike Huckabee's Christmas in Israel.
It's the Blue Compass RV annual Blue Tag clearance. Save over 40% on select new RVs during our largest sale of the year. Plus, every RV comes with a 1-year VIP membership to RV Complete, a $5,000 value. Visit us online or in store today.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS. That's urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS.
Your data is like a single domino. The moment it's stolen, it starts a chain reaction that puts the information that guards your assets at risk. 1 in 3 Americans have been a victim of identity theft. Are you willing to risk it?
When I saw zeros on that screen as my bank account balance, I went to immediate panic.
$21,000 just gone. I opened my account and $30,000 is missing. Like $30,000. I have no idea what to do.
If your personal information is stolen, are you prepared to pick up the pieces alone? LifeLock is the leader in identity theft protection and restoration.
Once LifeLock got involved, everything changed.
With LifeLock, if your identity is stolen, they'll step in and fix it so you don't have to, guaranteed. Our highly trained U.S.-based restoration specialists contact institutions, dispute fraudulent charges, close compromised accounts, and even procure legal support far beyond the capabilities of your bank or credit card company.
LifeLock pursued this case
further than I ever would have imagined.
If you call right now, you'll get LifeLock for just $9.99 a month for your first year. And as extra protection, all LifeLock memberships include the $1 Million Protection Package. Our members receive reimbursement for stolen funds and personal expenses, like lost wages, as well as coverage for lawyers and experts up to $3 million in total.
When the bank refused to reimburse my stolen money, the $1 Million Protection Package came through for me.
Our restoration guarantee and $1 Million Protection Package are included in all memberships with no additional fees.
I think it's natural to think that you can do this on your own. You can't. You need an expert in your corner.
Call 1-800-360-9220 and use promo code TV35 or go to lifelock.com/TV35 to join today.
All right, welcome back. In part as an effort to enhance FDA studies of the drug, Trump signing an executive order last night reclassifying marijuana as much less dangerous than it has been considered in the past. Currently, weed, pot, marijuana is classified as a Schedule 1, which is the most restrictive federal category. That's where heroin and LSD are as well. Under Trump's change, it'll move it to Schedule 3, making it, along with more common prescription painkillers, which some would argue are more dangerous than a lot of things. But Trump explains his reasoning for putting marijuana as a Schedule 3, taking it away from Schedule 1, putting it Schedule 3 right here. Take a listen.
This reclassification order will make it far easier to conduct marijuana-related medical research, allowing us to study benefits, potential dangers, and future treatments. It doesn't legalize marijuana in any way, shape, or form, and in no way sanctions its use as a recreational drug.
Dr. Michael Savage joins us now to talk about this. I've thought about this too, because I think it is a crime that we have a society that is high, and we have all these young people that are high all the time, and all these people that are high all the time. I think marijuana is far too prevalent in American society. At the same time, there are uses for it that are positive. What's your take on this?
Well, it's a complex subject, but it's not complex to understand why Trump did this. This was a straight-out lobbying effort by Big Pot, in plain English. And they got to him. It's the worst move he's ever made, especially in a time when so many youth are confused and stoned to begin with, telling them it's not as bad as we thought, so go ahead and try it. Now, I have an expert this Sunday night on Newsmax TV on my show about this. Her name is Laura Stack. She had a straight-A student for her son. He started vaping high-THC marijuana concentrates, and eventually he threw himself off a fourth-story building and killed himself. He went from an A student to a suicide victim. She formed a nonprofit to educate teenagers. She lectures around the country. High-THC marijuana and adolescent brain development is like pouring poison into the brains of children. It's leading to mental illness and suicide, and people don't want to accept this. The only reason Trump did this is because big marijuana got to this administration, and it's really a shame on two levels, not only for the health of our youth, but the fact is that RFK Jr. is supposed to be running Make America Healthy Again. It looks like Make America High Again is the watchword for Maha instead of Make America Healthy Again. I totally oppose this move. It's the wrong message at this time.
Yeah, you don't, I mean, as far as the research component of it, you don't buy that as the reason why they did this? You think that,
No.
I mean, it's... I agree with you, and I'll say something else too. I mean, I've smoked pot in my life, and I can tell you that for people that smoked in the 60s and 70s, the drug that they have engineered today is so much more dangerous and potent. The stuff that your kids are smoking, that these kids, teenagers, high school, college, that people are high every day. They wake up and they get high. They are smoking a very, very powerful drug that is very much mind-altering.
20 times stronger than the stuff that I smoked as a 17, 18, 19-year-old. And there are, you have to, don't believe Michael. Ask any emergency room doctor what they are seeing in hospitals. Ask them about the scromiting phenomenon in America, people coming in screaming and vomiting from marijuana. I'm not making this up. Any ER doctor will tell you this. It's a terrible message to be sending to our children at this time. We have enough stupid people in America to begin with. This is not going to make them smarter, Rob. It's a terrible, terrible thing to do, I think.
Everybody's drugged out, just trying to cope with, I think, life today in some way, and it's just not the way. It's not the way to do it. I got to get to one more thing real quick before I let you go. The Brown University shooting solved because a homeless guy in the basement was the hero here. He's the one that solved the crime for this very incompetent campus and also city police force there in Providence, Rhode Island. Your thoughts on the homeless guy being the hero?
I think it's a Jack Ruby patsy, in my opinion. It doesn't make sense to me. A few days ago, I said there may be a connection between the killings at Brown and the killing of the nuclear physicist at MIT who was an expert in plasma physics. Something doesn't make sense here because the professor at Brown, whose class was attacked by this alleged shooter, was a Jewish woman who was very pro-Israel. The whole thing didn't make sense to me, and I said, is there a foreign connection? Could it be that Iran is getting even with Israel through American researchers? I was reaching for an answer.
So that's what the Israelis thought.
I saw that come out 2 days ago. Maybe they're reading my tweets. Maybe Mossad needs some help by reading an American blogger.
I mean, it's a Portuguese guy, and the victim at MIT was Portuguese. They went to school together. I understood that one, but then the Brown thing was weird to me. Like, why are you wasting your time with a class shooting at Brown if you're going out? And it just was a strange connection. I'm not where you are yet, but there is something bizarre.
Well, I am not where I am yet either, because some of it doesn't make sense on any level.
Yeah.
Okay, but we need more investigation, not more PR stunts by the Brown Police Department.
Well said. Michael Savage, got to leave it there. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me. Love it.
Good to see you. All right, the president traveling to Rocky Mount, North Carolina tonight. Another speech coming up here pretty soon, continuing the tour on economic issues as Democrats try to campaign on cost of living after they created the crisis. Trump saying no more of this. He wants to win on this issue, and he is doing the work. It's going to be his second stop on this economic and affordability tour, and Dick Morris is here to talk about what we might hear tonight. Dick, again, you know, they lit all our money on fire, and now they're telling us that it's Trump's fault and that they're going to fix it. It's comical.
It's Biden's fault. Yeah, I think that this though marks a very important moment in this campaign, 26. I think people are coming to grips with this issue and realizing that Trump is in fact increasing wages and pay faster than they're increasing prices, and I think they're seeing that we're in fact getting to the bottom of this inflation issue. And the juxtaposition of that magnificent speech he gave and the data coming out that prices are rising much slower than wages are going up, I think is really having an important effect. I think it's a turning point in the election. And I think that polling next week will reflect that.
I imagine that they saw Democrats campaigning on this, and it got under Trump's skin big time because they're sitting there blaming him, you know, as if the last 8 or 9 months has made life tremendously more expensive for Americans. No, we're still just reeling after the last 4 years before.
Well, I think that's true, but I think we're also reeling in progress and tremendous growth. I think the fact that it doesn't sound like much, but the fact that prices went up by 1% slower than wages, which is like one of the first times in decades that's happened, shows that we're really making progress.
Exactly.
And it's going to take time to have it come clear to everybody, but Trump is finally taking this issue seriously and really addressing it in detail.
Yeah, keep telling people wages went up 4%, inflation was at 3%. We're making a little bit of progress. It's going to be slow, but we're making progress towards getting life back to affordable again. Dick Morris, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. An absurd, a ridiculous claim from this longtime Democrat strategist up next in News from the Left.
Charlie Kirk was not a pimple on Rob Reiner's.
He's breathing. Okay. Go again.
Nearly 5,000 people die from choking each year. That's frightening. I'm Dr. Ben Carson.
And I'm Arthur Lee. Well, there are ways to help prevent choking. Accidents do happen. That's why I invented the Life Pack.
Anyone can use this device, and it can save a life in seconds.
Just place, push, and pull. It's that simple. Please order one for your home, office, car, anywhere you eat.
Go to lifehack.net or call 877-543-3822.
The poverty is unimaginable. There are people who are struggling.
This is where she washes the dishes.
If you're ever going to allow your Christian faith to rise and to do something for God's chosen people, now is the time.
This is the home of Galena. She's 96 years old.
This is what she had to eat for today.
She has one pot with water and wheat.
My father was killed by the Nazis, and I was an orphan. I didn't know about God. But now, in the cold, hungry nights, I pray for food to the God I've never known. There are good people that love you.
You see the tears. Scripture says joy can come in the morning, and you can be the reason.
If you will bless these hurting children of Israel, you will receive God's blessing in return. Your urgent gift today of $25 will help Rush, a survival food box filled with life-saving essentials. If you call right now, your gift's impact will be doubled to help save lives. Call, scan, or go online now.
I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, I don't know how much longer she could have waited for us to come.
I can't even grow my food anymore. What will happen to me? I'm doomed to starve.
Tens of thousands of elderly Holocaust survivors in the former Soviet Union are living in extreme poverty, hungry, and forgotten. But through the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, we can bring them hope.
Eggs. It's my favorite food. May you be blessed.
You say to them, we see you and we're here to help.
If you call right now, your gift's impact will be doubled to help save lives.
Radical jihadists are not done. Iran promises death to America. They've built sleeper terror cells in the U.S. They support terror groups out to destroy Israel, including Hamas, whose founding charter calls for Islam to dominate the world.
The young people have been educated to believe that the most sacred thing they do is stab a Christian in the heart.
The only democracy in the Middle East that supports religious freedom is Israel. Standing for freedom, not terror.
Welcome back. Time now for news from the left. Longtime Democrat strategist James Carville with a pretty despicable comment here about Charlie Kirk after the death of Hollywood legend Rob Reiner. Take a listen.
I'm sorry. I don't want anybody to get shot. He has young kids. I hate that. But Charlie Kirk was not a pimple on Rob Reiner's when it comes to influence, when it comes to impact, when it comes to anything else. I don't say anything bad, but for God's sakes, don't dare compare Charlie Kirk to Rob Reiner.
Don't dare compare Charlie Kirk to Rob Reiner. Rob Reiner is a Hollywood legend, no doubt, but Charlie Kirk, from nothing, built up probably the most important youth political movement that this country has ever seen. That is worthy of a lot more than that description. I don't know what ticked off Carville when he made that comment or why you would say something so outrageous. And for what it's worth, Reiner had made some pretty nice comments about Charlie Kirk after Charlie was shot. So I'm not sure what that's about. A pretty ridiculous comment, a pretty nasty thing to say, I would say. Next up, former ESPN host Jamel Hill alleges former Carolina Panthers star quarterback Cam Newton is not getting paid as much to do TV as others because of his race. Take a listen.
I think you're the only black quarterback that's on television on a major network. Listen, you got Brady, Romo, former quarterbacks, Terry Bradshaw, former quarterbacks. Like, that space has been dominated by white quarterbacks.
Can we keep it funky?
Yeah.
I don't get no Brady deal.
I know.
I don't get no Romo deal.
Exactly. I don't see a black quarterback getting those type of deals.
The funny thing about that comment is, as they both sit there and play victim, both, by the way, millionaires, is that if you know anything about television, they are so starved for diversity in television that if you're not white, that's when you get the biggest contracts. That's the hard truth that they don't want to hear, and they'd probably call me racist for saying it. But as somebody that's been in television for 20 years, I can tell you that time and time again, I have seen that be the truth. Next up, Rachel Maddow was just awarded the Cronkite Award for Political Journalism. Yes, remember that as you listen to this.
Everybody who told me to shut up about Russia. Donald Trump's plan for ending the war in Ukraine, and it is quite literally, I mean this literally, written in the Kremlin. And everybody who was like, oh, Rachel, you and the Russia stuff, like, isn't that a little over the top? We now have a White House that works for the Kremlin.
I mean, they're such idiots. I mean, as we speak, for the last, how many months now have we watched this go on? The Trump is trying to oust Putin's most important ally in the West is Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela. The most important ally that Putin has in the West is Maduro, and Trump has been trying to get him out of power and put in a conservative person for at least the last several weeks, and doing about everything that he can to oust that person from power, to oust Maduro from power. Yet Trump's working for Putin. Does that make sense? She's not too bright. Overpaid, too. And finally, Tucker Carlson has spent the last several months attacking Israel for working to neutralize the threat of radical terror inside Gaza. He's been pretending that he's unaware that Hamas hides among women and children, hoping that they will die so that Hamas can vilify Israel. Hamas, they sacrifice their people all the time. At the Turning Point event last night, Tucker went even further, becoming a full-throttle propagandist for Islam. Take a listen.
Well, what you're watching now, attacking millions of Americans because they're Muslims? It's disgusting. And I'm a Christian. I'm not a Muslim. I know there's a lot of effort to claim I'm a secret jihadi. I'm not. You should not attack people on those grounds. And you're seeing it from Republicans. What the hell are you doing?
I'm not exactly sure what's going on with Tucker of late. He's changed quite dramatically from something really great. But I don't know if sitting there and propagandizing for Muslims and Islam is going to be a good way forward for Mr. Carlson. I'm not sure that one's going to work. All right. Coming up here after the break, and by the way, did you notice there was nobody in the crowd cheering for any of his comments last night at Turning Point? The story of where Christmas began, up next.
Closed captioning is brought to you by MagnaLife Pain Relieving Foot Cream to target neuropathy symptoms.
The stabbing, burning pain in your feet is real. Here's what real customers have to say about MagnaLife Pain Relieving Foot Cream, the only thing that works for my diabetic neuropathy.
Available in foot care and diabetic aisles.
When it comes to my daily heart health supplement, I've got 3 rules. It's got to be plant-based, it's got to be doctor recommended, and it's got to be Super Beets from Human.
Discover why Super Beets is the #1 cardiologist recommended beet brand for heart health support at livehuman.com.
You know the holidays are meant to be about family, laughter, and taking things slow. But when you're in pain, it's hard to enjoy any of it. I know because my back has made life difficult. But that's why I love the Signal Relief Patch. It's helped me enjoy the holidays again. Join the thousands who have experienced relief and get 30% off your Signal Relief Patch today. I've given this patch as a gift to friends, family, and even strangers I've seen in pain.
Signal Relief has truly given me my happiness back.
The Signal Relief Patch puts pain on the back burner.
The Signal Relief Patch has been life-changing.
This is too good to be true. It's too easy.
In a recent study, over 85% of people felt relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. This patch was a game changer for me, and it can be for you too. Trust me, the patch works.
Invest in Ukraine now. Ukraine is rebuilding, innovating, and shaping the future. Because Ukraine is the potential. Kyivstar is Ukraine's leading digital operator. Invests in Ukraine's connectivity, entertainment, ride-hailing, healthcare, and innovation. It's time to think opportunity. It's time to think Ukraine now.
Sonobello helped me get back my sparkle this season.
This year, look amazing in every holiday photo with Sonobello, America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist.
Before I would hide in the back of photographs, I didn't expect the results to be this good. I'm so happy about it.
This holiday, save 50% on the area you're most excited to change. Tummy, waist, arms, thighs, you choose.
I got lipo done on my stomach and also on my arms as well. Best decision ever.
Sonobello permanently removes stubborn fat, tightens and tones skin, all in just one visit with less downtime.
All the fat was gone. When I saw myself in the dress, I knew I was about to live my best life.
Call 800-665-0288 to save 50% on your first area this holiday. Appointments are filling fast.
Run. Do it.
Because if you can feel half of what I feel, totally worth it.
This is a limited time offer. Save 50% on your first area. Call Sono Bello today.
Hurry in for huge savings going on now at Motorhome Specialist. Now with 2 locations. Shop and save on over 1,000 motorhomes, starting at $69,995. Only at Motorhome Specialist, the #1 motorhome dealer in the world.
Robert trusts Prevagen for his brain, and this is his story.
I am Robert Strickler. I've been involved in communications and the media for 45 years. I've been taking Prevagen for at least 8 years. I found out that I benefited from it. It gave me more confidence, and I enthusiastically recommend Prevagen. It has helped me an awful lot.
Prevagen has been the #1 selling brain supplement nationwide for over 10 years.
From the ancient walls of Jerusalem to the quiet streets of Nazareth to Bethlehem, where hope entered the world in a humble stable. We'll explore the story, the places, and the meaning of Christmas in the land where it all began.
All right, in just about 3 minutes here, Newsmax will be previewing Mike Huckabee's Christmas in Israel special hosted by our very own John Bachman. And John sat down with our ambassador to Israel and the Holy Land, Mike Huckabee, to retrace the journey that started Christmas. And John joins us now to talk about that. Good to see you, my man. What can we expect with this Christmas special? I love these things.
One of the things I was really surprised by, Robin, it's great to be with you, is that Mike Huckabee, he's been to Israel on 100 different trips. He's the ambassador, of course, but this is the first time he'll ever be in Israel for Christmas time, and it's such a special time of the year. There's a lot of the Christmas spirit there, obviously. We retraced the steps of Joseph and Mary from Nazareth to Bethlehem, got to go into the West Bank, into the Church of the Nativity, which was amazing to see. It was interesting, though. This is the first time in 2 years that they've lit the Christmas tree in Bethlehem. But there aren't really many Christians around. A lot of the Christians have left the West Bank ever since the war and prior to that. So, you know, there was like an overwhelming appetite for these folks to call people back to the Holy Land, especially this time of year. It was just an amazing experience.
It is amazing. You know, I went there last year, thanks to our boss. I got to spend about a week in Jerusalem. I had never been to Israel in my life. And I just remember walking down those streets, and they were telling me, like, these are the same exact stones that Christ walked on when he carried the cross. And you're like, that's the same rock. He was like, yeah, this part over here, they'd re-stoned it, they had redone it. But these stones are the original. And you're just thinking that is surreal to be that close to it. And the Church of the Nativity, like you said, and there's so many spots right in that little area.
Yeah, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is amazing. You can go inside, and if you look around, they have all these crosses etched into the stone, and those were the crosses that the Crusaders, when they made their pilgrimage to Jerusalem during the Crusades, they would etch in the stones. And I didn't intend on doing this. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. But every Friday at 3 o'clock, they have a procession that retraces the Stations of the Cross with Jesus, and I went along with the Franciscan priests that do that, and it was just absolutely amazing. It's a great time to go to Israel, too, because the tourism crowds have not returned. So you can experience these places without a massive crowd there alongside. Right. So I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, same. The last thing I'll say, I walked into the sepulcher, and I remember seeing that it's like that stone, that long stone that's on the ground, and there was all these women. I don't know if they were nuns or whatever. I'm not very religious, but they were kissing it, and I was like, what's that? And that's what they carried Christ's body on after he was crucified. And I'm like, that's the thing. I mean, I couldn't believe. Like that visceral history was just like, whoa. I mean, I was amazed by it. So very cool stuff. I look forward to seeing it, John. Thanks so much. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me, Rob. Great to see you.
All right. Mike Huckabee, Christmas in Israel starts right now. We'll see you back